take it. And the cup is more than half full now. If you love him, you need to be right. So give her your love and the cup will full. Your sky could never gray. Doubt can wipe a smile away. Sun, it shines up above. From out the darkness comes your love. Into the world it brings some light.
But if you've had cancer but you're cancer-free, and you've never had cancer, you're cancer-free, the two of you are on par. You're both cancer-free. So you don't call the average person on the street, oh, she's cancer-free, or she's a cancer survivor. That's history. The past is gone. It's not here at this moment, okay? So I think one has to be very careful in the languaging that one uses when describing oneself, because language not only describes oneself, but language frequently creates what you're saying. We now know a lot more about the so-called placebo effect. The word placebo means I shall please. And when people get dummy drugs but they think they're really effective, 30% will respond positively, which means that even though the drug was not efficacious pharmacologically, their body somehow thought it was, and therefore they had the therapeutic benefit. Similarly, the word nocebo is the opposite of the word placebo. You tell somebody you have cancer and you have 6 months to live, then if the patient has trust in you and they believe that, then that has the opposite effect of the placebo. In Australia, for example, they have a custom, they used to have a custom in the Aborigines called pointing the bone, where if you were upset with your enemy, you went to your witch doctor, and the witch doctor did an Aboriginal ceremony with a kangaroo bone and chanted some Aborigine mantras and said, now point this bone at your enemy. And within 24 hours of pointing the bone, the enemy would get nausea and vomiting. In 48 hours, they would get dehydrated. In 1 week, they would die. And what had been done was pointing the bone. Now, when you go to a doctor and he says, Mrs. Smith, you have cancer, and this is the prognosis, and this is what's going to happen to you, he's pointing the bone, in a sense.
I am a breast cancer survivor, a blood cancer survivor.
I'm Dr. Holly Lucille, a naturopathic doctor.
I am a mom of a teenager, basset hound owner, military wife.
My name is Dr. Deanna Atai, and I'm a breast surgeon.
I am a cancer survivor who is looking for answers just like you.
I'm Deborah Tripathi. I'm a medical oncologist.
What works, what doesn't? Welcome to Thrive with Namrata. Wow, languaging. Well, first of all, I'm a big fan of Deepak Chopra. Deepak, I want you to know that. And also as a friend, I love you and cherish you, and I want you to know that too. Thank you for being there for me through all of my trials and tribulations with cancer. So thank you for that. But more than anything, thank you for teaching me to language right and have the right mindset. And today, for you wonderful people out there, cancer survivors like myself, who want to know, really, languaging and mindset and placebo and nocebo effects, how much do they work? I'm going to throw this to our super duper panel again. Who wants to take that one?
There's no question that our words matter and how we say things is important. What I think we really have to be careful about is giving the patient the right information, the accurate information, but not necessarily steering them in one direction or the other. When we talk to a patient and say, you have X number of weeks, months, years to live, the reality is we oftentimes don't truly know that for that individual. We know it for an average group of patients. So I think sometimes just saying, you know what, this is what your disease is. We know in general the natural history, but we don't want you to feel paralyzed or stuck in the average, because it really is different for everyone.
I think especially with diagnosis in general, like I have cancer, I have chronic fatigue. I always say I care less about the diagnosis, I care more about the mechanisms behind the diagnosis. Doctor in Latin, docere, means to teach. And I actually want to take it a step further, and I think it's important to facilitate understanding. So people can actually, we put the dots really close together and they can get it, that aha, then they just aren't, being talked to and told a bunch of information, that they can actually understand how this might have happened, or hey, we don't know how it happened, but there's plenty of options, let's talk about them. So I think languaging is extremely important, and being gentle with our words and not pathologizing people unnecessarily is important too.
I think those are critical points. Languaging and messaging is so important. What patients want to know is that you care about them and you will be honest and upfront with them, but you're also going to be hopeful with them, because patients don't want their hope taken away. And I can tell you that even in the most dire circumstances, I can always offer the patient hope. I may not be able to offer them a cure, but I can tell them that we will be there with them. The whole medical team is going to be behind and do what we can, offer them the best advice, give them advice that is not necessarily about the cancer, but about them as a person. These are things that a patient wants to hear, because we know that hope is important, but we don't want to give them unrealistic or false hopes. We want to give them hope within the context that there's always something we can do for them.
So which brings two very quick questions. One, I know as a cancer survivor, and probably most of you too, you always want to hear from your doctor, but only good news. You almost want, someone once asked me, would you rather your doctor lied to you and gave you good news? Or would you rather your doctor told you the truth and gave you bad news? And I said, I would rather the doctor said, he's giving me good news and it's the truth. So the question though, on the other end of the scale is, when you talk about prognosis and diagnosis, there's a lot of word that goes around Dr. Google and the internet in terms of doctors and pharmaceutical companies giving diagnosis and prognosis so they can make money. So that, it's not the patient that comes first, it's more the fact that they can be treated so that money sort of exchanges hands. I know you guys are not like that, and I can tell you from all the doctors I've had, they are probably angels on earth if there was any such thing. Why does this get around, and what do you guys have to say?
I think it's the old fear factor, that we're trying to scare people so they actually make an action. And like you said, then that action is going to probably make somebody money. I always say that I don't actually have any protocols per se. I call them wake-up calls. So you got to treat everybody as an individual for the most part. We don't know. Every situation is different. We have no idea how that individual person's journey is going to end up. But it's so important to let them know we're going to be there along for the ride.
Right. I think any of us, like you said, we went into this field in the beginning because we truly want to help people. And sometimes it's by treating a specific aspect of their disease, but most of the time it's by treating the patient and figuring out what's important to them, how can I help treat or manage their disease, but how can I just help that person in general. And that's not about money making, that's just a genuine care for the person. And you want them to be able to thrive as much as possible, even in the face of a life-threatening illness.
I can understand how patients feel that way, because medical care is expensive, and many of the things we recommend actually create a financial hardship to our patients. And unfortunately, there are probably some physicians out there that are motivated more by doing more procedures and more diagnostics and helping their practice make revenue. So that's why I think it's very important to communicate with the patient what their diagnosis is and what we know about it. Explain to them what studies have been done and why you're recommending what you recommend. The statistics are there as a guideline because you're talking about the average effect of large trials. So how you apply that to a patient really is an individual decision, where you have to give them the best information you have and then counsel them as to how they as an individual might trade off, for example, a 5% higher chance of cure rate versus some side effect, because that's what you're looking at. You're trying to make some general decisions. You shouldn't take those numbers too literally, though, because they are estimations that come from large trials. But I think that physicians have to build the trust of their patient through knowledge, through education, through counseling, and through really giving them the opportunity to make sure every one of their questions is answered.
Do you think pharmaceutical companies have a cure that they're keeping secret so they can keep making money? The money's not in the cure, the money's in treating people?
I think prevention is the cure, so I can't even answer that question.
I'm going to put you on the hot seat.
I personally do not believe that there is some mystery cure that's out there that is a super secret and nobody's letting us in on. I just think there are too many people in too many different institutions and too many different studies that if there was really the answer out there, I think we would have it.
cancer is too complicated for one single drug to cure it, so I don't think there is such a drug out there. I do know that if a drug company has a very effective drug, they're going to do everything they can to develop it and to identify what population of patients might best respond. So I think the pharmaceutical company definitely needs a lot of oversight because they are private companies and they have their motivation for profit, but they also can bring a lot to the table that's positive. So, you know, we have to take the good and the bad that comes with the private sector research and the pharmaceutical and biotech industry and make sure we're harnessing it to move the field ahead. There has to be transparency and accountability.
Love that, transparency and accountability. Here's what I'm taking away from this show. One, I don't think there's a secret cure out there because I think, for one, as the doctor said, we would know about it. And I think if there was a cure out there, the company would make money, right? If you could say you cured cancer and you could prove it, I would say you'd probably make a little bit of money. And I think the other thing that's important to me is going through my journeys with both different cancers, I have encountered way too many doctors, people from pharmaceutical companies, researchers, scientists who themselves or with their family members have been affected by cancer. I don't think you can go through your day to day without knowing anyone that didn't just get affected by cancer in their family or friends. So I think that if there was a secret cure, somebody would be curing one of their loved ones with that secret cure. But in the meantime, while we're waiting on that secret cure, we understand there's no magic cure. What you can do, however, is while you're waiting on that cure, don't forget to thrive.